The twin worlds of Nebulon and Orion floated on the far edge of the spiral arm, wrapped in shimmering auroras of violet light, and each world carried a legacy of warriors, mystics, and star voyagers who had survived the rise and fall of countless empires. For centuries, the two worlds remained distant, carrying their own traditions and guarding their own borders. Yet an ancient prophecy whispered that one day their destinies would collide under the shadow of a tyrant whose wrath would shake the fabric of the cosmos. That prophecy began to unfold when the Galactic Empire unleashed its fleet of obsidian carriers upon the outer system's scorching planets, leaving ruin behind and capturing entire civilizations under the banner of absolute control. Nebulon's High Council watched the devastation unfold through the quantum mirrors, and for the first time in generations, fear rippled through the crystalline chambers as they realized the Empire now moved toward their quadrant with relentless precision on Orion. The warrior clans gathered under the starlit dome as news arrived of destroyed colonies and fallen outposts, knowing that the Empire did not negotiate nor offer mercy, but demanded unwavering submission to its brutal rule. Both worlds sensed that their independence hung by a fragile thread, yet neither held the strength alone to resist the colossal power of the Empire, whose armadas stretched across nebulae like an unending swarm of silent machines amid this growing storm. A lone envoy named Kalor of Nebulon was chosen to cross the void and seek aid from the Orionic Council, even though history told that no emissary from Nebulon had ever been welcomed without challenge or trial. Kalor traveled aboard a shimmering vessel known as the Light Tracer, whose hull was forged from stardust alloy and powered by quantum flares, allowing him to cross the interstellar gulf faster than any Imperial scout as he journeyed through the void. He felt the weight of countless lives resting upon his mission, knowing that failure would condemn both worlds to the Empire's merciless iron grip. Upon reaching Orion, he was greeted by a formation of armored warriors whose presence radiated silent hostility as they escorted him toward the Council Fortress, where ancient banners fluttered in the violet winds of the planet Kalor. Was brought before the High Blades, the ruling commanders of Orion, whose sharp gazes studied him with suspicion as they demanded to know why a Nebulonian emissary dared enter their sacred chambers. Uninvited, Kalor lifted his head and declared that he came not as a rival nor as a threat, but as a messenger carrying a plea for unity, for the survival of both worlds depended on a bond forged in a time of rising darkness. The Orionic commanders laughed at first, believing that Nebulon's famed intellect and diplomacy meant little against the raw might of the Empire, and that their warrior clans could crush any invader without the aid of outsiders. Yet Kalor revealed what the quantum mirrors had shown him: the site of 3 destroyed star systems and the remains of ancient Orionic outposts burned into floating ash by the Empire's annihilation beams. Silence filled the hall as the commanders absorbed his words, realizing that their pride could not shield them from the terrifying truth that even their greatest clans would fall swiftly against an empire powered by endless fleets and forbidden technologies, the High Blade. Serevox stepped forward and demanded proof, so Kalor activated the holographic core, projecting vast fields of destruction where once thriving worlds had existed, now reduced to drifting dust under the Empire's merciless advance. The hall trembled. Its dread settled across every warrior, witnessing the fate that awaited Orion. If they ignored the warning carried by the emissary of Nebulon, Serevox, asked why Nebulon would risk reaching out to Orion despite generations of distance rivalry and mistrust, and Kalor answered that survival erased old boundaries and destiny demanded unity in times of cosmic upheaval. A long pause followed as the commanders exchanged glances, each weighing honor, tradition, and the survival of their people before. Serevox finally declared that Orion would consider the alliance only if Kalor proved his worth through a trial of courage. Kalor accepted without hesitation, knowing that Nebulon needed Orion's strength, and Orion needed Nebulon's knowledge, if either world wished to stand a chance against the overwhelming storm of the Empire. He was led to the trial ring, a vast arena carved from the bones of an ancient star beast, where countless warriors had earned their honor in battles of endurance, strength, and spirit. The challenge required Kalor to face 3 Orionic warriors, each wielding distinct combat arts that no Nebulonian diplomat had ever dared confront, yet Kalor reminded himself that his mission carried the hopes of two entire worlds as the first warrior stepped forward, wielding twin plasma crescents. Kalor activated his Nebulonian wrist shield, a device powered by crystallized photon energy that shimmered like a living barrier of light. The clash of plasma against radiant shield echoed through the arena as sparks of blue energy danced across the air, and Kalor swiftly countered using fluid Nebulonian motion, designed not to kill, but to redirect an opponent's strength. The second warrior charged, wielding a massive, star-forged hammer that shook the ground with each strike. Yet Kalor used agility and precision to avoid fatal blows, moving with the grace of flowing starlight while conserving his strength. The third challenger emerged cloaked in a veil of shifting, illusion energy making it difficult to track his movements. Yet Kalor closed his eyes, relied on his senses, and used Nebulonian pulse vision to detect vibrations in the air. With one decisive strike, Kalor disabled the illusion cloak, bringing the warrior to a halt and earning a chorus of astonished murmurs from the watching Orionic clans. Serevox descended to the arena, acknowledging that Kalor had fought with honor, humility, and skill, proving that Nebulon brought more than diplomacy to the alliance they needed to forge. The stars above Nebulon and Orion rippled with the heavy glow of rising cosmic storms, as both leaders stood inside the fractured citadel of Asterion, where ancient echoes whispered about battles fought long before either of them drew breath. Nebulon lifted his radiant spear toward the swirling purple sky and spoke in a steady voice that carried the weight of an entire planet, as he warned Orion that the Galactic Empire had already launched their shadow fleets, and that the time for hesitation had long passed. Orion tightened the grip around his astral blade, and declared that he would rather fall into the void itself than watch his people be enslaved by the tyrants who ruled the Empire with iron hearts and devoured whole worlds for resources. Nebulon stepped closer and told Orion that only a unified strike could break through the Empire's planetary shields, because no single army had enough power to shatter the barrier forged from ancient quantum forges. Orion agreed, but he reminded Nebulon that their peoples had been rivals for centuries, and that forging trust overnight was nearly impossible, even though the threat looming before them demanded unity at any cost. Nebulon assured him that the past no longer mattered, because survival always rewrites old grudges, and because entire civilizations were counting on this alliance to hold. Orion nodded slowly and felt the silent dread of responsibility press heavily on his chest as he realized that his decisions could determine the fate of millions spread across star clusters he might never even visit. Nebulon summoned a holographic display showing the Emperor's colossal dreadnought called Oblivion Star, a monstrous vessel capable of tearing moons apart with its gravitational cannons. Orion stared at the projection and admitted that defeating that ship alone seemed impossible. Yet he believed that fate had not brought them together, merely to witness ruin. Nebulon activated the strategic map revealing the hidden wormhole network that the Empire secretly used to invade smaller systems, and he explained how they could collapse the entire network if they reached the central conduit in time. Orion understood that such an attack required immense sacrifice, because whoever entered the conduit chamber would likely never return due to the unstable energy flows that swirled there like raging celestial whirlpools. Nebulon placed a hand on Orion's shoulder and said that heroes were not defined by survival, but by the courage to act when the universe demanded it. Orion breathed deeply and asked Nebulon how many warriors he could gather before dawn, because the Empire would not wait long before striking at the heart of their rebellion. Nebulon answered that the Duskborn Knights, the Solar Vanguard, and the Void Sentinels had already pledged themselves, and were preparing their fleets orbiting the twin moons of Zerith. Orion said that the Orionite Paladins, the Riftwalkers, and the Iron Wardens would fight as well, because none of them intended to surrender their homes or their children to the Emperor's cruelty. Nebulon smiled faintly and declared that history would remember this union as the moment two ancient peoples stood together and created a storm so fierce that even the Empire trembled. Orion replied that history mattered less than the hope carried in the hearts of those who believed in them, and he vowed to protect that hope, no matter the cost. Nebulon raised his spear and forged an oath that their alliance would never be broken until the Empire's banners fell and the galaxy tasted freedom again. Orion accepted the oath and drew his blade through the air as a symbol of unity, igniting a wave of light that surged outward, to awaken the slumbering guardians hidden beneath the citadel floor. The ground rumbled as colossal stone figures carved from extinct cosmic beasts emerged with ancient glyphs glowing upon their forms, responding to the oath forged by Nebulon and Orion. Nebulon explained that these guardians were the last remnants of the primordial protectors who once defended the galaxy during the First Celestial War, and now they answered to the call of unity. Orion bowed before them and pledged that he would not let their resurgence end in vain, because the coming battle would decide the fate of every soul that still clung to hope. Nebulon summoned the command beacons and ordered the combined fleets to gather at the Nexus Gate, where the Empire's forward scouts were already approaching with deadly precision. Orion prepared his battle armor infused with starfire and crystal plating, shaped by ancient artisans who believed that warriors carried the spirits of the cosmos within their hearts. Nebulon donned the mantle of the celestial sovereign, a garment woven from pure energy, harvested from the dying star Urath long ago, and it shimmered with a power that inspired every soldier who witnessed it. Orion stepped onto the launch platform and gazed at Nebulon with a new respect, understanding that this alliance was more than strategy, but a merging of destinies shaped by sacrifice and courage. Nebulon signaled the fleet to ignite their engines, and the entire station shook with roaring power as thousands of ships prepared to leap through the Nexus Gate. Orion whispered that no matter what happened, he would stand beside Nebulon until the final spark of the final battle. Nebulon answered that fate often demands more than courage, and he warned Orion that the Emperor possessed forbidden powers drawn from celestial relics. Lost to time, Orion swore that relic or no relic he would bring the Emperor to his knees, because no tyrant can withstand a galaxy united by purpose. Nebulon finally gave the command, and the fleets tore through the fabric of space, leaving brilliant trails of starfire behind. As they plunged toward the Empire's warfront, Orion placed a final message into the cosmic archives, promising that if they won, the next generation would inherit a future untainted by fear. Nebulon repeated the ancient vow of his ancestors, declaring that light always rises again, even in the darkest quadrants of the cosmos. Orion stood firm at the front of the Orionite flagship, ready to lead the charge. As Nebulon took his place upon the command deck of the Celestial Spear, where the most powerful warriors of Nebulon awaited the order to strike, Nebulon lifted his spear, and the fleet soared forward into the storm of war, unyielding and unafraid.